Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. Welcome to Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. This week, the subject is change. If change is constant, why do we resist it? Why do we need change? And how can we welcome and even initiate change? From Buckminster Fuller, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. From Wayne Dyer, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. So it was Heraclitus who was the person who first came up with change is the only constant in life. He was a Greek philosopher and he was quoted as saying that. And in this episode, I was thinking about what is it about change that makes it such a big subject, and why are we so resistant to change? Why do we fear change? And when change is something that is constantly happening around us, even though we live so much in the technological world, we're still privy to nature, and we still recognize the shift and the change of the seasons year in and year out. And yet for some reason, when it comes to bringing change into our lives and adopting change and actually opening ourselves up to being more fluid, we double down and we resist making any moves towards moving out of where we are at into something that's bigger and brighter and better for us. But the thing about being fixed, the thing about remaining stuck, is ultimately that is going to lead to our discomfort, our unhappiness, depression, anxiety, trying to keep things in stasis that actually by their very nature need to evolve and need to develop and need to sometimes disappear and be replaced by other things. And if we look at the world that we're in right now, I think we're seeing a lot of shift and a lot of change. And it's interesting to notice how some people are adapting to the change and some people are not adapting to the change, either by pretending it's not happening or holding faster onto the things that they believe are going to remain forever and ever, which is just not the way that things happen. For us wanting to be able to steer the change in society in the way that we want it to be so it benefits us does require us to shift and change the way that we see the world, what we understand about the world, and even more so, what we understand about ourselves as individuals and as a collective. We can't expect the external to do the work. We can't just be happy with shifts happening outside of us and wanting to remain the same. It's our duty, it's our birthright, it's what we're here to do, is to become something different, is to become something better every time. And for those of us, or for those within the world who are really battling the change, we have to be open, ready, and expect the change, even instigate the change from the outside, and prepare ourselves to ride the changes that are coming towards us. If we look at the way that the world is changing in terms of technology, we have now ahead of us, we're on the brink of this AI revolution. None of us really knows what that is going to mean in terms of the way that we work, the way that we live. But it would be foolish of us to pretend that these things are not happening and not at least equip ourselves with the knowledge about what this really means, the implications of it, and maybe even potentially the benefits of it. If it means that we're moving into a time and space now where many of the areas that we work in and many of the ways that we create income in our life is going to be obliterated, then it's at this point we really need to start thinking forward and thinking about whether what we do right now is going to be something that exists in the future. And if it looks like it isn't, what changes can we make now so that when the shift happens, we're in the right place and positioned to actually not lose and not be left behind. There's the famous saying from Nicholas Murray Butler, "There are the few who make things happen, the many more who watch things happen, and the overwhelming majority who have no notion of what happens. We're in that space and time right now. I believe that we're in that kind of position in humanity right now. And things that we can do to actually make sure that we are equipped and ready for the changes is to really get a full idea of who we are as souls, as spirits, to be able to stand fast and navigate when the world shifts around us. If we're still wedded and attached to the way that things are, and that shifts and we have nothing else to cling to, we're in a limbo with ourselves, and we're kind of going through this existential crisis, this dark night of the soul while the world is changing. Getting grounded, getting into the space of knowing who you are, building that spiritual connection, building that connection with the divine aspect of yourself that's never changing, allows you to be still in the center of the storm as things whirl around you. So how is it that we make changes? What can we do to make sure that we're ahead of change and use change to our benefit? First is to make a decision as to what it is that we are changing. What do you want to change about your life? How do you want to make a shift? What differences do you want to see? Get super clear about what that is. Make notes about it, research about where you could possibly go, where you want your life to be, what changes can you make, and how can those changes be real for you. Also useful to really find out what it is that you think might be holding you back. What has held you back in the future? What are the reasons and the excuses that you've given yourself to not make the change, even though there's a part of you that has desired this change? And again, this desire keeps coming back for you. Why are you continually holding yourself back from moving forward, making that change, stepping into a greater aspect of yourself? If you procrastinate, what is it that you tend to do in order to avoid doing the things that you want to do? We usually find a bathroom to clean or washing up to do, or the most mundane of anything to do when it comes to avoiding the very work that is going to create a big shift in our life. That part of us that wants to keep us safe and still and in the familiar doesn't want us to step out of our discomfort zone into a new space. But why do we stay there? What are we afraid of? That's what we need to really examine so that we can put to bed any of those ideas that we're telling about ourselves, or the reasons that we can't move forward, or we don't deserve change, or why we should not even attempt to do it. And then we need to look at our environment. In what ways is our environment holding us back? Now, this can be on many different levels. It could be the people that you're surrounded by. Are they supportive of you? Are you surrounded by people who have no motivation and no drive and no desire to better themselves? Because the minute that you start stepping into a new version of yourself or talking about change, it might come as a surprise to you how unsupportive and actually how negative and destructive and bent on sabotage to an extent other people can be when they see that you're trying to make differences in your life. Are there areas of bad habits that you have that are continually sabotaging your own success? If it's about getting into shape, are you eating the right foods, or are you always falling back into those comfort foods, they call them? It's interesting that we have these comfort foods and these comfort zones that are actually causing us the most harm, that inhibit us from moving into the newer version of ourselves. An interesting word, don't you think? Again, visualize your success as well, that big why, make it bigger, bigger, bigger. What is it that you want? What will that change create for you? What will that change create in your life? How would you be able to help other people? Who will you be in the becoming of that and making that change for yourself? And it's also useful to ask yourself why. Just look over what will happen if you don't make this change. If the change that you say you desire for yourself, if you don't start taking those steps towards that, if you don't take those steps and you're looking back on your life a year from now, how will you feel about it? If 5 years from now you've still not made any changes, are you going to be okay? 10 years from now, if you get to the point in your life where it's your last breath and you've not made any steps towards what you say you wanted, are you going to be able to reconcile yourself with that? Are you going to be comfortable in the regret that you had the opportunity to move forward and you didn't make the shift? And once you've made the choice and the decision that you are going to make changes, have some expectations, and firstly, expect discomfort. Change is not necessarily comfortable, be it physically, emotionally, be it energetically. Moving into new spaces is always going to be unfamiliar. And again, we want to get out of the comfort because the comfort seems to be the saboteur. That discomfort, that always just feeling that edge, that pull, that's the thing that's actually going to keep you on your toes, keep you moving forward, keep you learning more about the areas that you can improve yourself, wanting to expand yourself, putting yourself in environments where you're the least educated in the room, where you don't know anybody, where you have to step out and step in a different way. All of those things will help you grow. And also people who see that you are making an effort, if you move into the spaces where you're aligned with people and respected by people just for making and taking the chance, you'll find that the energy in the reception is way more welcoming than those who would rather you stay where you are. And again, get the right support. So have people of a similar mindset, people who are on a similar journey, people who have made the journey already. Maybe you also want to work with mentors, coaches, educators, anything that you can do to kind of fuel yourself as you move forward with your change. Feed yourself well, and not just the nutrition of food, but also mentally. What are you listening to? What are you watching? We live in an age where we are oversaturated by content, and you can go either way with this. You can either go into the depths and the dark of the most useful, time-consuming, nonsensical bits of information, and conversely, there are people out there that are putting out amazing stuff that if you just have their voice and their wisdom running in the back of your mind, it keeps you moving forward. It reminds you that things are changing. It reminds you that you are changing. It reminds you that there are others that are on the same journey as you. And even if you never meet them physically, their words, their guidance, their sharing can help you step forward into that newer version of yourself. The idea is to allow your change and the journey of change that you're taking to be fun. And another important point is once you've decided that you want to change and you see the change that you want to make, start. And a final piece of advice is never give up. A quote from Rumi: "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." And from Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Thank you for joining me on this meander through the idea of change. If you are on your own change journey and you require some support, I have a couple of resources that you'd be interested in. The first is Embody Higher Energetic Resonance Journey. Sign up for that free. The link to that is in the show notes. And also, if you require deeper support and want to know what it looks like if we're working one-to-one with my spiritual life coaching, again, check the link in the show notes and contact me there. My website is carolmaywhittick.com, carolmaewhittick.com. Find me on Facebook, Carol May Whittick, on Instagram, Kazmic, Cazmick. Have a great week. Take care. Speak again.